Outrage culture. It's amazing what gets people to the point of outrage these days. Things that I often experienced as a kid and never attributed to my race are today looked at as full-scale attacks on black people everywhere. But as the media has insisted on sending Americans into panic mode over the smallest things, I've become more aware that sometimes it's liberal whites who are the ones fanning the flames of this new brand of outrage. This recent Starbucks incident strikes me as one of those things that has been blown out of proportion. Even if racism was involved, which I highly doubt for multiple reasons that I'll get into later, the outrage is certainly being directed at the wrong two entities, the police and Starbucks. So what has driven folks into full-scale uproar mode? Let's consider culture. So let's look at the facts of this Starbucks case. You have two black men who walked into Starbucks for a meeting with a white family friend. Now obviously these two black men aren't on CP time. The white family friend, however, seems to be running late. Whatever the case, this forces the two black men to make a decision. Either order something and sit down, or sit down with nothing and just rent space in Starbucks for free until the white guy gets there. Now, the two gentlemen chose the latter. Unfortunately, at least one of these men needed to use the restroom. However, this particular Starbucks has a policy that states that only paying customers can use the restroom. Here we don't have much clarity as to the back and forth between the employee and the gentleman who had to use the restroom. What we know is that he sat back down. The two men were then asked by employees to leave the premises if they weren't going to order anything. They refused and the police were called. Now this is the point where we get the viral video that everybody's talking about. We see two black men being taken out in cuffs and headlines like this. But that leaves a lot of questions. 1. Who were the employees and what conversation did they have with these two gentlemen? 2. Why didn't the gentleman just follow the policy and order a water or something? After all, Starbucks is a privately owned company. The space and Wi-Fi there is not free. It's a service for paying customers. Which brings me to question number 3. Were these two gentlemen ever going to order anything from this Starbucks? Or were they perhaps waiting politely for their white friend before they placed their order? Something tells me they weren't. But of course, that's just speculation on my part. See, I've gone to Starbucks on numerous occasions for meetings. I've also gotten there earlier than whoever I was going to meet. I always make it my duty to order something even if that person has not gotten there yet. If the plan is for us to eat, I only order a beverage until they get there and we order the meal together. It's a courtesy to the other customers who may need to sit down. Paying reserves me the right to a seat. If I don't want to pay for something until my meeting, I wait outside in my car. Again, this is out of respect to other patrons. It's also out of respect to the fact that I know Starbucks is a privately owned company and doesn't owe me a damn thing. Going in and using their seating, Wi-Fi, and meeting space is basically theft if I don't make a purchase. You wouldn't do this at a regular restaurant, so why try it in Starbucks? So as you can see, I have a few things that I need answered before I can decide heads or tails of this case. Most people have jumped the gun and said that this is once again another example of racism in America. But here's the problem. In the video, you can clearly see several black customers in that Starbucks dining without issue. One is even filming on her cell phone. If we're to believe that Starbucks is a racist place, why weren't the police called on these other black customers? Oh wait, maybe it's because they were customers. The fact is that that particular Starbucks had a policy. For whatever reason, the employees in that Starbucks chose to follow it. Now, would I have done the same? I'm not sure. It depends on how those young men were treating me and my team. And again, we don't know how the dialogue went between the employees and the two young men. But we do have video of these young men talking to the police, and they weren't exactly the most polite. One mentioned the police having to ride a bike for a job that only paid $40,000 a year. But those are the police. And these days it seems okay to talk any kind of way to police officers. Even though the narrative is that police officers shoot black men, still, many black men have no problem shooting their mouths off to the police officers. Police officers with little racist, itchy trigger fingers. You'd think that the threat of death would make you a bit more respectful when in the presence of a badge and a gun. But I guess some of us who believe that cops shoot black men for nothing are willing to play chicken with their lives. But back to our story. One thing that struck me in this video is their white family friend. He comes in late and starts making assumptions from the door.
What did they get called for? Because there are two black guys sitting here meeting me? Yes,
He's obviously aware of the cell phone video because he looks directly at the camera a couple of times as he loudly suggests discrimination must be afoot. But then he asks the woman behind the camera what happened.
What did they do?
I'm sorry, sir, but you can't have it both ways. You can't claim to know what happened and then ask what happened. It makes no sense. The woman behind the camera, whose video went viral, has also said some things that are a little questionable. She says she didn't notice the two black men until the police came. So she has to be unaware of any dialogue between these two men and the employees. Yet, she's the very first person making suggestions of racism on Twitter and causing black folks and others to follow her lead. So the idea that this was a moment of racism was brought to people's attention by these two white people in Starbucks. I think that is a significant fact, as I think that has been the case in many of these cases. White liberals start the spark that ignites a firestorm. Now, I won't rule out racism altogether. It's plausible that the person who called the police at the Starbucks was racist. However, the person behind the counter is not the one who's being highly scrutinized by the media and protesters. No. The media and protesters are taking it upon themselves to attack Starbucks, the corporation who dropped the charges, by the way, and of course, the police, who are the media favorites at this point for racism. This is what leads me to believe that this, like many other media circus stunts, is just another seized political opportunity. It's an opportunity to call the police racist, an opportunity to call another corporation racist, and the opportunity for liberal whites with white guilt to virtue signal and feel better about themselves for doing so. Is it just me who finds it a little bit odd that white liberals are constantly trying to put batteries in the backs of black protesters who quickly jump at the opportunity for a Duracell to be placed in their backs?
Oh boy. Check Paulie out. Paulie, yeah. You named him. I named him my monkey Paulie. Oh boy.
And perhaps it's just me again, but does anybody else find it funny that liberals are attacking their favorite coffee spot? I thought liberals love Starbucks. What's next? Them accusing Whole Foods of being racist? And I stated earlier, Starbucks quickly dropped the charges and issued a statement and an apology. But that apparently wasn't good enough for some in the media. It's as if Starbucks is responsible for the thoughts and ideas of this one employee who decided to call the police. Using that logic, if one black man shoots a police officer, then police officers should be well within their right to think that all black men are a threat, because one black man obviously represents all of us, just like one Starbucks employee represents the entire Starbucks. Sorry, that logic doesn't make any sense, people. So again, the jury is still out on this one, but all signs point to no racism. Perhaps just an angry employee who was annoyed by these two men not paying anything. Now the funny part is that I have a black friend on the left who showed me this video. He just knew this was racist. But he works in a gym that requires a gym membership to get in. He works at the door and knows the members. On multiple occasions, he has called the police on black males who tried to get in without paying for a membership. When I pointed that fact out to him, remember, folks, before you jump the gun and claim that racism is the reason for something like this, please consider culture. I'm Chi Brown. Subscribe, like, and comment. And I'm out.
No more Yaza Baza.